Welcome to episode 54 of Let's Talk Bitcoin, a twice-weekly show about the ideas, people, and projects building the digital economy and the future of money. Visit us at letstalkbitcoin.com for our daily guest blog, all our past episodes, and of course, tipping addresses. My name is Adam B. Levine, and today we're talking to the people in the trenches. Bitcoin ATMs have been viewed as promising pieces of technology with an uncertain regulatory future. As the first bi-directional, that's buying or selling, machine opens in its first location in Vancouver, I catch up with Jordan Kelly, CEO of RoboCoin Kiosks, to talk compliance and ATMs. Then, Charles Hoskinson, director of the Bitcoin Education Project, checks in about what's coming soon, why it matters, and how you can help. Later, Bitcoin appeals to all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons, and we'd be remiss to only speak to those above the age of 18. Jaden Shelton is an author and outspoken Bitcoin advocate, and despite what you may have heard, he's only in the 4th grade. Stephanie Murphy interviews the Bitcoin Kid. We end today's show with a question. What kind of future are we approaching? Anthony D'Orio is the executive director of the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada and a past guest on Let's Talk Bitcoin. He's been traveling, speaking with leaders, and forming a view of what types of organizations might help move the cause of Bitcoin forward for everyone. Enjoy the show. US dollars, yen, euros, no question, the toughest nut to crack in Bitcoin is getting your hands on some when all you have is legacy funds. Jordan Kelly is the CEO of RoboCoin Kiosks, one of the most ambitious attempts at addressing the ATM question. Jordan, welcome to Let's Talk Bitcoin.
Adam, thanks so much for having me.
Recently, I had the chance to use one of your competitors' machines, a Lamassu. I was really pleased with how fast and easy it was to use the device to convert a $10 bill into, at the time, it was 0.08 of a Bitcoin. But Lamassu goes out of their way to highlight that their product is a Bitcoin vending machine rather than an ATM. Your product doesn't make such a distinction. Can you explain how they're different?
I'm glad to hear you actually made that distinction. I've never heard that claim yet, and I'm really pleased to hear that that's starting to make waves. We don't really look at those guys as competitors necessarily. We're pleased with the work that they're doing, and we're really excited to see that they're supporting the Bitcoin space. There's a few main differences. First is that RoboCoin is the only bi-directional ATM machine. And what that means is that you can actually buy and sell Bitcoin, which is something that we think is really exciting, in that the RoboCoin is one of the main cogs of providing liquidity to the Bitcoin market. The next thing that I'm really excited about is, and really where I think we differentiate, is on the overall size and hardware of the device. So we're talking about RoboCoins they're 6 feet tall, 3x3, 750 pounds of steel, enclosing north of $15,000 worth of bank-grade hardware and technology, starting from bill dispensers that can hold up to 4,400 bills. And if you're talking about US dollars, that's $440,000 in a machine. Also, a cash acceptors that hold over $100,000. We kind of designed and engineered this machine to be for real businessmen and real entrepreneurs, and kind of taking the approach of scaling their exchange business the right way. And then finally is the compliance. We're really excited about our compliance technology that we think is actually world-class. Our attorneys think is world-class. Basically what we do is we have a 3-step verification process that is absolutely revolutionary. Gives our operators the ability to fully know their customer while complying with full anti-money laundering law, and gives customers the most seamless, simple, and fastest way to buy and sell Bitcoin.
So let's go through those a little bit. So you said that it's important for it to be bi-directional, and that is definitely a difference. Is the Lamassu machine that I saw, you could only buy Bitcoin from it. And that was a very fast process, but it was one way. If I wanted to sell Bitcoin to the machine, then they couldn't do that. Since I started looking specifically the RoboCoin, I've been looking at the Kreuzberg area of Germany, where they've created this sort of robust locality that accepts Bitcoin pervasively. It makes me think that you could use these machines as a basis to create that any place you could get people on board with it. And so like some of these niche shopping areas that have been recently improved, could effectively become quite trendy too. Is that why the exchange is important?
I think that's one part of it, and really one sector is those niche communities. What we're really most excited about is that this bridges the gap between virtual and reality, virtual worlds and reality. It actually provides people, your average Joe, your noobs, if you will, a real a real world impression of what Bitcoin is, and it actually makes the currency substantially more accessible. So what we're trying to do is just trying to break down all of the barriers to entry for people to actually acquire the currency. I think what we're trying to accomplish here is really being seen with our first location up in Vancouver. I think that our partners up there, Bitcoiniex, saw a great opportunity in the market. When they established their storefront, they quickly realized that the demand is incredible. The demand to buy and sell, the demand to trade, but they also realized that scaling that business was a bit difficult. They found that RoboCoin was the best way to actually do that.
So where are the Bitcoins that you're selling on these machines actually coming from? Because I know that the Lamassu machine, you essentially load up a wallet, Bitcoins are then taken from that, but you can effectively run out of Bitcoin inventory on a Lamassu machine. How does it work with the RoboCoin?
I mean, this is where the real brilliance of our machine comes in. I mean, this is by no means just a hardware machine. We're truly proud of the software that we've built in this. My partner, our CTO, John Russell, he's a brilliant mind. But basically what John realized is that option is really limiting. It's limiting for the operator of the machine. So instead, we give our operators the ability to link in their exchange accounts, so a Bitstamp or an MT-GOX, and we actually are able to execute buys and sells on the fly.
So operators don't actually hold any inventory. It's all just taking place there, so when someone sells, it's going back onto the market as well?
Exactly. It removes all the risk from the operators, which is
that configurable for operators who want risk?
Totally.
Okay, cool. That sounds like an interesting option. Talking about the compliance features for a second, you said that you have a 3-part system, and I know that the first time that I looked at the compliance features, I thought that they were a bit invasive. But as I've kind of thought more about compliance and sort of what the requirements are just to do business legally in the market, they've started to make more sense to me. Can you go over what the RoboCoin kiosk offers in terms of identity verification and why that's important?
Yeah, and you know what? First, Adam, I'd like to just quickly touch over like how we kind of came to our conclusions and the journey that we took on this, because it's taken us a lot of time and a lot of thought to really figure out how we want to solve this problem. In the current landscape, buying and even selling is extremely difficult. If you want to do it on an online exchange, it's not simple, right? So you have to actually send in a picture of your ID. You have to send in a picture of your utility bill. You have to actually have a bank account. You have to link your bank account. You have to do all of these different steps. And then finally, the wiring process, it takes days. So that process is indeed the largest barrier from our perspective of actually going and buying Bitcoin. So, you have all of these different pieces of who you are, your identity that you're giving to these operators, from your bank account to your ID to your location. What we realize is we can do this way simpler. And we can do this because we have actual hardware, machines, and technology doing this work for us. So for us, all our customers need is their hand, their government-issued ID, and their face, if they want to access their Bitcoin or if they want to buy Bitcoin. And the process goes like this. Walk up to a machine, scan your palm vein. And the palm vein, if you're not familiar, is the second most accurate biometric authentication on your body, second only to the iris. There's no centralized database. There's no thumbprint database. There's no, it's brand new technology that we're leading the charge with. So once you've scanned your palm, you actually create a unique ID. From there, we have you scan your government-issued ID. And this is for federal compliance. This is in order for us to actually play ball in the United States or in any countries that are a little bit more scrutinizing. From there, we actually take the photo on your ID, and then we have you stand in front of the camera, and we have you smile for the camera. Our facial matching technology matches the face on your ID with the face in front of the kiosk. Once all of those have been confirmed with the technology, you're able to use any machine, any RoboCoin across the globe. And that process right there takes minutes. It's not taking hours, it's not taking days. It's not, you don't have to wait, 48 hours to be able to access your Bitcoin or to buy or sell. It is happening in minutes.
So these are networked machines then? I mean, in addition to being able to access your exchange account, as far as trades are concerned, these are actually machines that are talking to each other.
Exactly.
So are you building a database of government IDs tied to the palm vein scans? Because, it seems like you have all of the data to do so.
Yeah, so the palm veins are actually encrypted from the manufacturer. So the palm veins are not going anywhere. We understand what they are, and we have the ability to link them uniquely.
Okay.
We're not having, there's no real centralized database of all of these palm veins. The way that we work with our operators is that our operators, they source our KYC technology. So they source that three-step verification process from us, and we kind of work with our operators to provide them information to make informed decisions. So for example, right, if a terrorist walks up and that terrorist's name is on the SDN list, the specially designated names list, if a terrorist walks up to the machine, scans their ID, our software sends that name through the SDN list. If that name actually red flags, we then send our operator a red flag, and our operator is then obligated to inform their local authority, which actually is really cool because it gives our operators the ability to be heroes.
So that's really interesting. So with all the machines being networked, that allows users to register on one and then go to another operator's unit somewhere else in the world and use that one without having to register again. Is there anything else that you can do because you've got this continuous system?
I think that there are a lot of things that we're going to be able to do in the future, Adam. I think right now our job is to make the acquisition of Bitcoin as convenient as possible. We are laser focused on giving people the best ability to access Bitcoin.
Let's actually talk about this for a second. The reason why this is a process you put together as like a turnkey for compliance is because the way that the compliance regime is built in the United States and in many other parts of the world is there are limits on how much money you can transfer in a given day or in a given transaction, right? What you need to do is you need to affirmatively ascertain that this person is who they are, and then they can't just go to another machine and make another large transaction that's just a little bit below there.
That's exactly right, and that was why we built the palm vein scan into it. That way we can uniquely identify these people.
Okay. I mean, again, this is like where I come back to the privacy thing, because this is, on the one hand, this seems like it's really invasive, but then on the other hand, I mean, that's just the cost of doing business if you want to legally be able to sell this sort of thing in the United States right now.
Yeah, from where we look at it, we see Bitcoin as such a much more powerful protocol than just the idea of anonymity. Where we see the value is that it's a decentralized currency that's based in math. That's the most exciting factor of what we're offering, of what Bitcoin offers. I think you said it very well. That is indeed the cost of doing business. If you want to play ball in the United States, like if you want to be able to access your Bitcoin from a RoboCoin machine, we have to play ball because they've deemed it a virtual currency. We're trying to make that process as easy as possible.
I have been, again, thinking about this a lot, and one of the things I keep coming back to is that when it comes to crimes and tracking how that works, a lot of times the moniker is follow the money. With your particular service, where you're essentially providing verifiable, assertable identity tied to specific Bitcoin transactions, and then those Bitcoins can be tracked, say, 50 or 100 transactions down the line, do you have any concern, or have you thought at all about, what if law enforcement comes to you and says this transaction was tracked back to a transaction attached to this identification? Do you have concerns about your records being requested or privacy?
We're trying to build as much intelligence into our system as possible right now, so that way we can be as helpful with everything. But really, what we're trying to focus on is we're trying to give our operators the ability to be as helpful as possible. So I mean, as you're aware of our business model, we sell these machines to our operators, and it's on them to really understand their customers as best as possible. We're giving our operators a ton of information to make the best decisions possible, to make sure that that they're towing the line on the law, to make sure that they're only doing business with really good customers. It's our job to give them as much information as possible to make the best informed decisions, and then furthermore to help play ball with any of their authorities, and again, I kind of circle back to it, and it might be a little bit cheesy, but really, I think it's kind of a cool opportunity for people to actually be heroes in their community, and to to potentially find and red flag the nefarious characters.
As an individual, I am actually interested in bringing some sort of Bitcoin ATM or distribution device to my local community. If I were just an individual wanting to get involved in something like this, is this even something that I should bother approaching? Are the barriers high?
I honestly think that it is 100% worth approaching. I think that right now it's one of the most exciting business opportunities in all of Bitcoin. To be a RoboCoin operator is really, really exciting. I can see the excitement from our partners up in Vancouver. The amount of inquiries that we're seeing across the globe is pretty staggering. From Japan to Israel to Brazil to Russia to Prague to the UK, all up and down South America and in Mexico. I mean, it's spanning the globe. Right now, because the United States deemed Bitcoin a virtual currency, it forces operators in the US to have to go and get their money transmission license. We think that it's something that people should do. Like, if you're really interested in investing in this space, that is a small cost of doing business. Definitely one that's worthwhile.
So one of the interesting features I noticed about the machine is that if, like, I don't have a smartphone with a Bitcoin wallet on it, your machine actually allows me to print a new paper wallet and then load Bitcoins that I purchased from your machine onto that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really neat feature. I was wondering, is that tremendously secure? I mean, are you protecting the private keys on those, or is it like you print it out and then as soon as you're done, just stick it in your pocket?
Print it out, stick it in your pocket. But what we also do on the receipt, we say, like, hey, be sure to send this Bitcoin to a wallet that you securely own. What John thought about with that was, let's try and make this as seamless as possible, and let's actually make the process for new coming adopters frictionless.
Do you see any application for this as like almost a physical Bitcoin type of, one could go to this machine, get exact change, and then hand somebody the filled paper wallet? Or is this purely as a way to help people who don't have the technology available to them, like a smartphone?
Yeah, it's more for people who don't have access to technology. Like, this is kind of what we call being grandma friendly. Like, if my grandma wants to buy me some Bitcoin for Christmas, this is the sweetest way. She can just hand me a RoboCoin receipt with some Bitcoin on it. It's really cool.
Final things, how much do the machines cost, and are there any ongoing costs after the initial purchase?
Yeah, so machines are $20,000, and there's really no future costs. Machines are $20,000, and then obviously we introduce bulk pricing once you've purchased 2 or more. The reason that we've priced them that high isn't because we're trying to make a killing on the machines. In fact, we're barely breaking even on each machine. Again, we're using really solid bank-grade technology, high-class bill acceptors, bill validators, serious technology with a palm vein scanner and ID scanner. From the operator's perspective, they're buying world-class hardware, and with it, they're getting a world-class partner. Our goal is to be the operator's best friend and best partner. And I guess this is also one of those things that I think kind of differentiates us from any of our competitors. You know, you're not just buying hardware and we're washing our hands of it and walking away from the deal. We're going into it, together, which means that we're incentivized. We as a company, RoboCoin is incentivized to make sure that you, as the operator, are always up and running. If you're down, we're down.
How many units do you anticipate shipping by the end of the year? I know that you guys are doing a rollout in the next couple of months. I know that you've got your first store going up in Bitcoiniacs.
Yeah, so we have our first one going up in Vancouver, actually. That was announced today in Wired. I don't know if you saw that. It was pretty cool. They just announced today our first RoboCoin is going live in Vancouver in a little cafe called Waves. Actually, it's a really cool cafe owned by a great, really, really entrepreneurial lady. It's going to be a wild day Tuesday when we actually finally unveil this thing. I imagine there'll be a pretty good queue for it. We launch on Tuesday in Vancouver and Waves downtown. Then we have another 5 coming live in December. And then we have just a ton rolling out at the start of 2014. But we've already done north of 6 figures in revenue, and we're trying to crack $1 million before 2014.
Has there been any particular areas where we're going to see a lot of these popping up? I know the first one's coming up in Canada.
Before the end of 2013, RoboCoins will be all across Canada. By the end of 2014, RoboCoin will be all across the globe.
Are we looking at the final version of the hardware, or is this something that you anticipate rolling out future improvements and iterations to over time?
Our job is to get better every day. That's all we focus on. Not just with the software, but with the hardware. We're going to continue to find better ways to improve it. RoboCoin 1 will be, this is going to be at least a 1 year to 1 to 2 year piece of hardware. From an operator's perspective, it's probably ideal to get moving as quickly as possible and not to wait for version 2.
Jordan Kelly, CEO of RoboCoin Kiosk, thanks for joining us. We look forward to your progress, and thanks for your work towards making Bitcoin a little bit easier.
Thank you very much for having me, Adam. It was fun.
You You're listening to Let's Talk Bitcoin, the premier audiocast providing news and insights that cover the rapidly evolving world of digital money. Our twice-weekly shows include analysis of late-breaking news, updates on key technical, business, and regulatory issues, and in-depth interviews with the key people driving the new digital economy. Let's Talk Bitcoin offers sponsors an attractive way to reach a targeted and savvy audience. For more information, email sponsors@letstalkbitcoin.com. More than 300,000 users and counting trust blockchain.info. It's a Bitcoin wallet service and a wealth of Bitcoin information, and is completely free to use. With a blockchain.info wallet, you'll get the convenience of a web wallet and the security of a desktop client. Blockchain.info is also a block explorer. You can use it to see Bitcoin transactions in real time, check the balance of any Bitcoin address, and view many handy Bitcoin charts, all for free. See what they have to offer today at blockchain.info.
I think there's room for innovation, and I think there's an absolute need for academia. I mean, honestly, Bitcoin's development should not be done by an organization. It should be done by a confederation of universities around the world, nested in maybe 20 or 30 different computer science departments. And then you don't have corporate bias. You kind of have people doing things not necessarily for economic motivation. They're doing it for other motivations, which would be much more in tune with how Bitcoin needs to evolve, at least in my opinion.
We're joined by Charles Hoskinson, director of the Bitcoin Education Project. Charles, thanks for joining us again on Let's Talk Bitcoin.
Oh, Adam, it's absolutely a pleasure to be here.
We got back from this latest event in Georgia. The situation has sort of changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks. Can you bring us up to speed on your project?
Absolutely. I started Invictus Innovations. Well, it really started as a forum thread back in June, where I just kind of had a call to arms saying, I have access to funding. I had some great people, some great ideas. And what we really want to do is create an entity that does two things. First, it builds a peer-to-peer decentralized exchange in a really nice, beautiful, elegant way, because it's absolutely necessary for the survival of Bitcoin, is the ability to easily move between cryptocurrency and fiat. The second thing we wanted to do was create a company, a corporate entity, where its mission statement was to study decentralization, was to come up with decentralized solutions for centralized problems. I interviewed and talked to countless hundreds of people, and we had a lot of fun. Eventually, we put together a really phenomenal team, Dan Notestein, Dan Larimer, Benson Evans, and many others who really could get this decentralized exchange done via Coyote, which is kind of the infrastructure required for it, and then BitShares, which is really the price discovery engine, which uses a prediction market. So after all that got bootstrapped and the money materialized, I really didn't need to be directly attached to the company full time to ensure that it was going to go down the route it needed to go down. There's an excellent, smart team that it's both highly motivated and capable of getting it done. So I'm now transitioning to something that is still necessary, which is education. I'm still not happy with the amount of FUD and just a general lack of knowledge about how money works. That's much more critical, in my opinion, than the day-to-day minutia of running a corporation. So I'm going to be focusing from here on out full-time on the Bitcoin Education Project and getting it where it needs to go.
So now the Bitcoin Education Project, that actually is the project that I first spoke to you about. So it seems like you've come full circle here. You've catalyzed this other project, and now you're back to the one that got you started with everything.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was still working on it part-time when I was at Invictus, but I just didn't have the time to really take it to the next level. And kind of my hope was maybe I could spur a community movement and some people would step up and really push it hard. But I guess I just didn't get enough of a spark yet. That's what we're going to be doing. And we have some great accomplishments already. And the two big things that we were able to accomplish with the time that I've already spent, first is we have 7,000 students inside the Udemy course, which is non-trivial. And 95% of them had never heard of Bitcoin. And this is the first contact that they've had to Bitcoin. And some of them have gone on to actually become very evangelistic. I was just talking to a gentleman named Dave Allen, who's up in Canada, and his first exposure to Bitcoin was from my class, and now he's working full-time in Bitcoin. This is his thing now, and he's working with the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada and many other organizations, and he wants to build his entire career around it. There's a lot of other people that have taken the class, and we've gotten that feedback. The other thing is we've built a really good team of people. There's Dr. Charles Evans down at Florida Atlantic. There's Dr. Goss, Ryan Charleston from Bit Karate that are going to be contributing content and helping us do some amazing things moving forward. But it still needs some leadership, organization, and focus. And that's why I'm returning to make sure that we get there.
I guess the Bitcoin Education Project was started pretty close to when Let's Talk Bitcoin originally started. So you're about 6 months old at this point. So what's coming next from the project? What should the community look to see?
The very first thing we need to do is we need to restructure our web assets. And there's two in particular that we're going to create. So the first website we're going to rebuild is the Bitcoin Education Project's core website. And it's just a WordPress template right now. And it was something that was quickly put up to say, this is who we are, and here's our mission, and here's some of the people who are helping us. It's really not an effective vehicle for aggregating a community, collecting great ideas, working with volunteers, holding good discussions. So we're going to completely rebuild that from the ground up over the coming weeks to be a far more collaborative and effective platform. The second web asset we're creating, we're going to go ahead and create a website called bitcoinbestpractices.com. And its goal is to basically construct best practices content for both users and businesses in a crowdsourced way. So we're going to create a list of questions about that provoke thought in what are the best practices for financial privacy, for security, for safety on the consumer side, and also actually a business survey that we sent out to many Bitcoin businesses or businesses that accept Bitcoin, and try to create kind of a baseline on a yearly basis and put it into a PDF that people can download and read. And it has bullet pointed best practices information that's very accessible and easily translatable, so we can actually get this ported to other countries. So those two web assets are really going to help us get down that road. Yeah, the next thing we're going to do also is really start revving up our academic campaign. And we have a new partner that we're working with. His name is Dr. Andrew Sword. He comes from Northeastern, and he's an incredibly bright guy. He's got a PhD in applied math, very skilled at many things. And he's going to step up to the plate and finish the annotated Satoshi line. To recap what the annotated Satoshi line was intended to do, is it's mainly supposed to be an introductory course for a graduate level computer scientist who's interested in cryptocurrencies. So let's say you have a PhD in computer science, you're a professor, you're a graduate student looking for research, and you've heard of this Bitcoin thing. An alpaca socks video is really not what you're looking for. You're looking for an in-depth overview of the technology and the kinds of problems that this technology needs to have resolved or solves, from proof of work to blockchain architecture and so forth. And so Dr. Schwartz is going to get into the nuts and bolts, into the mechanics, and work meticulously at producing some incredibly high quality content, and including going through source code and also talking about major problems that are on the horizon that are open areas for research. And our hope is that's going to kind of spearhead academic involvement. Another thing too is it's unfortunate that I named it the Bitcoin Education Project. I probably should have called it the Cryptocurrency Education Project, but we'll stick with Bitcoin. I'd like to get more content on altcoins. We're a freestanding, independent organization. We don't have an agenda. We don't have a dog in the fight. And I believe altcoins present a spark of innovation. They don't exist in a vacuum. Most of them exist because they're trying to resolve some interesting issue, whether they have debates about the proof of work, a la Litecoin, or they are trying to solve something novel like Namecoin or BitShares. Altcoins are really important to cover. And so what I'd like to do is actually create an entire series of lectures. We're going to call it the Altcoin Bazaar, on basically the top 30 altcoins. And we'll go to the core devs of each of these altcoins and say, hey, this is the kind of the format that we're looking for. Help us make a great lecture explaining why your altcoin exists, what's special about it, what it hopes to solve, and why it's different than Bitcoin. Why, is this just a philosophical difference, or is there some technology under the hood that really justifies its existence, or some problem it solves? Another thing we're going to be doing, we'd like to port the Bitcoin Education Project outside of just a digital spectrum and put it into the physical spectrum. It's very important to have that person-to-person contact. And so we're working with two people in particular for that. One is John Mohan, the founder of Bitcoin New York City, which has done some really amazing things. I think Satoshi Square was actually spawned out of their group. And also Justin Dunnigan from BitDevs. And what we're going to do is create a Bitcoin meta meetup group. So basically, we're going to take everything that's been done at Bitcoin New York City and everything that's been done with BitDevs and turn it into a franchise model and just kind of have it like a successful meetup group in a box. Everything you need to know, all the resources, the structure, the management, how you should run things into a box, and port it out into as many places across the United States as possible. And then the directors of each and every one of those meetup groups will meet regularly with John and JD, and they'll kind of coordinate and collaborate, and ideas can flow up and ideas can flow down. and it gives us an actual physical distribution point from everything from beta testing software to starting new companies to seeking capital. And as important to us on the education project, actually distributing educational materials and getting some sort of crowdsourcing. And the final thing that we're doing, where we're going, at least in the foreseeable future, is we've been working really closely with an author. His name is Justin O'Connell. He's been writing a wonderful Bitcoin book, Bitcoinomics. And he started as just a small, like 60, 70 page thing. And I think it's grown to over 150 pages now. And we're just about to begin the crowdsourcing of that book. So we're going to go chapter by chapter and release them and get community feedback. And our goal is to finish and create an official book of Bitcoin. And we're going to call it Bitcoinomics, the official Bitcoin book that's been built by the community with the aid of the community, and get that out there. So we have many different distribution points. And the final thing, we're going to be building an educational cell phone app, because we understand that, you can have video content, you can have physical in-person stuff, you can have books. To finish that entire gamut of educational resources would be to have a wonderful training app where you can safely play around with fake Bitcoin, where you can learn a whole bunch of things about Bitcoin without actually having to invest any money yet. And it gives us now a mechanism where we can push updates, push information to people's phones. And we think that that's in the future a wonderful distribution channel for a lot of great things to do with Bitcoin education. So to recap, that's basically what we're doing. We're going to create some web assets. We're doing the annotated Satoshi. We're going to go ahead and go through the altcoin bazaar. We're going to build the Meta Meetup group. We're going to be working closely with Justin to make sure that that book gets out there as soon as possible. And we'll be building some cell phone assets that we think are going to be really nice for keeping the community cohesive and well-informed.
So you've just got a few little projects on your plate.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now you know why I'm going back time on this.
Okay, so I do have a couple of questions. With the annotated Satoshi line, now, specifically what we're talking about there is going through the white paper, or is it going through the code base?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of both. I got the idea from Charles Petzold, who did the annotated Turing. And what he did is he took the Alan Turing's white paper on the Enschede-Dungs problem, and which was a very famous problem that David Hilbert came up with. And basically what he did is he just wrote a book around the entire white paper, and it was just an annotation of the white paper. A very good book, highly recommend it. So what we're going to do is go through the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper section by section by section and basically try to do three things. First, say what was said, what was done, and then finally what has yet to be done, what are open problems. And then after that's finished, also cover a lot of other content too. Like, let's talk about actually how wallets work at a deep, in-depth technical level. And anything you can pick in the ecosystem that's interesting from a code perspective or from a technology perspective, pick that up and then talk about it at the level and depth required for analysis at the academic level. Okay. So it's like, on the core lecture series, we say, this is what Bitcoin is and this is what it does. And then the annotated Satoshi level is, this is actually how it does it. And these are the things that we're still having issues with. And if you're smart enough, solve them. There's a Turing Award somewhere.
You're looking for altcoin developers, and you specified like the top 30 is what you'd like to deal with.
Yeah.
This is almost just a trivia question. I'm super curious. How do you determine what the top 30 of something like an altcoin is?
The website is escaping me right now, but there is a website that lists the market value as determined by coins traded on exchanges of the top 37 cryptocurrencies. Obviously, Bitcoin is at the top and Litecoin is number 2, but I think PP Coin is number 3. But there's a listing of all of them. So what we're going to do is simply just systematically go down a list, assuming it's accurate, and contact the core devs and say, hey, would you like to do a lecture and talk about your altcoin? And this is kind of a platform for you to broadcast how cool it is and what it does.
So, Charles, again, it sounds like you've got some really interesting projects that are coming up. What is it that you need in order to make this happen at this point?
Well, donations are always welcome. We're doing quite well financially, and the first donation drive was fairly successful, but we always can use more money, and the more money we have, the faster that we can execute on these kinds of things. And we're also looking for volunteers as well. We need them in surplus, whether you want to help on marketing, help on content creation, if you'd like to work with Dr. Schwartz on building the annotated Satoshi line or helping expand our academic plans, if you'd like to work with John and JD at creating that Bitcoin Meetup Group franchise model, just generally speaking, any of those 7 things that I've mentioned, if you want to help us with that because you believe in the mission, then we need that. We're also really looking for people to help us globalize this movement. Bitcoin is not an American phenomenon. It's really a financial ecosystem in a box. It's a bank in a box. It's many, many things in a box that benefit developing nations far more than it benefits America. You know, we all get pissed off at Chase and Wells Fargo and these banks, but if you live in Kenya or if you live in South Africa and other areas, you don't really have a stable, good financial infrastructure. It's very corrupt, very high fees. I mean, I was talking with the Kiva guys not too long ago, and some of the microfinance loans that they push through charge a 40 to 50% interest rate on these loans. So that's a very predatory financial system. And something like Bitcoin, if it's properly massaged and there's a lot of infrastructure built around it, could completely change the world. This is a system, financial system of the next generation for 7 billion people, not just 2 billion people who won the geographic lottery and where they were born. So we would love to have volunteers help us globalize this movement, translate content, develop content that's specific to certain cultures. Like, for example, I'd love to have a discussion about how Bitcoin relates to Islamic finance. And if anybody would like to take the lead on that, that would be phenomenal. We have some great partners in China, and we're going to be working closely to make sure that we translate all of our content into Mandarin. If anybody in China would like to help us do more, and anybody in Japan or Korea or anywhere else would like to do us more, that's what we're looking for. So more global in scope. And finally, we'd love some more ideas. The kind of the schedule I've outlined of those 7 things are the things I think are low-hanging fruit that we can really get done in the next 6 months. But if you have some ideas on what you would like to see or what you think is absolutely necessary to eliminate the FUD and teach people about how money works and really spread the gospel of Bitcoin, then send me an email, contact me. I'm absolutely willing to work with you on anything that's possible. I have finite time, so it might take me a little bit to get back, but I will try to reply to every single email people send.
Charles Hoskinson, how can someone reach you if they want to get in touch?
My email, charles.hoskinson@gmail.com. I'm also going to upload a PDF to the Udemy course, which contains a whole bunch of different methods to contact me, from Skype to my email, a glyph to a PGP address, and so forth.
Charles, thanks for joining us again on another episode of Let's Talk Bitcoin.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Adam.
I am here. Welcome to Let's Talk Bitcoin, first of all. I'm here today talking with Jaden, and he is a very special young man. He is the author of a book that's being sold for Bitcoin. Is that right, Jaden?
Yes, it's correct.
So welcome to the show, and thanks for talking with me today. Can you tell me a little bit about your book?
I have to give my dad some credit. He was the one who first came up with the idea. Got to write all this down. And one thing led to another, and the book was published.
And what's the book called?
It's called The Scary Blueberry.
The Scary Blueberry. Ooh.
Well, I suggested that it would be about an undead blueberry. Dad, no. So we might have changed the story a little, but it's based on a true life story.
What made you decide to sell this book for Bitcoins?
That also was my dad's idea.
And how did you find out about Bitcoins?
I found out about Bitcoin because my dad, he found out about it, showed me a really funny video, and told me what it was. It was hooked. Not majorly hooked, but I'll say hooked.
If you were going to tell someone who didn't know what Bitcoin was, if you're going to explain it to them, what would you say?
I'd say it's just a digital currency that can be changed from digital to money, like dollars, euro, and the yen.
Uh-huh.
And the pound and well, you get the idea.
You're saying it goes all over the world, right?
When it's like in its original form, you can buy stuff online with it.
Like your book, right?
Yeah.
So one more question, Jaden. How old are you right now?
I'm only 9 years old. Really tall for my age. Some people mistake me for a 5th grader. Fourth grade.
So you're 9 years old. You've already become a published author, and you've already started selling a product. You have your own business, and you're earning Bitcoins. Now, I think that's really cool because that's something that a lot of people don't do even when they're 30, you know? Are you proud of that?
I'm just going to say this. I'm probably going to get most of my Bitcoin from my allowances.
I saw a video that you made on YouTube about getting Bitcoins for your allowance. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's called My Job Chart. It's like you earn points. When you earn points, you can like spend those points on Bitcoin and Millibitcoin. And then they can get stuff on Amazon.
Oh, you get stuff on Amazon. Cool.
I think My Job Chart has some sort of deal with Amazon.
They have a deal. It's a conspiracy to get the kids to do child labor, huh? Do little jobs.
Well, maybe, but I can't confirm that.
Gotcha. So you do jobs around the house, and then you're able to get Bitcoins.
Yes.
You're also able to sell this book and get Bitcoins. Do you have any other plans to make any more books that maybe you could sell to get even more Bitcoins?
I might make some comic books. I might need a little help. Like, I might hire an artist. That's what I did with my book.
You hired an artist? Who was the artist?
She was from Serbia.
She's from Serbia. Okay.
Yeah, my dad just told me her name's Livia.
I'm looking at the book cover right now on your website. So it's The Scary Blueberry. It's written by Jaden Shelton and illustrated by Livia Jovanovic.
When I was young, I used to live in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan.
What would you say is the best way to spread the word about Bitcoin?
First, it's important to get a bunch of websites that sell Bitcoin up. And then you have to start advertising, not just like the people who know about Bitcoin, but like put it on YouTube or TV, for example. Mm-hmm. That'll help spread the word, but nobody's actually thought of that yet. It's just like they think, maybe we should just let people find out on their own. There are hundreds of people who know about Bitcoin. Compared to all the people in the world, that's a small number.
So it's going to take a while before a lot of people find out. When do you think...
The way things are going now.
So how old do you think you'll be when everybody knows about Bitcoin? By the time you're 20, 50?
Probably older than that. Maybe 120.
120. Well, great. I'm glad you plan on living to 120.
Well, if I do live up to that point.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to people who might be listening to this show about Bitcoins?
Bitcoin? I don't know all there is to know about Bitcoin. I know enough to know that it's going to change the world. And one thing about Bitcoin, they don't make it every day. Well, maybe some every day, but only like one every day at most. Not a lot, unlike governments.
Jaden, thank you so much. This has been real cool to talk with you. Jaden is from the website btckid.com. That's the Bitcoin Kid. And his book is The Scary Blueberry, available with Bitcoin, shipping to US, Canada, and Europe. And it's going to be shipping worldwide pretty soon.
Right now, it's 30% off all Amazon prices if you buy with Bitcoin.
EasyDNS is the Swiss Army knife for your domain names, helping meet their customers' individual needs since 1998. EasyDNS has been an outspoken critic of SOPA and CISPA. EasyDNS was an early supporter of Bitcoin, and now they are proud to sponsor this show. Do business with a company that shares your values. Get a 13% discount when you pay with Bitcoin. Go to bitcoin.easydns.com and be sure to use discount code LTB. Hi, Stephanie here. Would you like to turn your book into an enthralling audiobook? Need a persuasive commercial to promote your company? How about a narrator for your explainer video? Here's where I can help. I'm a freelance voiceover artist, and since 2009, I've lent my voice to dozens of audio projects. To hear some examples of my work, check out my website, smvoice.info. If you like what you hear, I'd love to be the voice of your next project. Get in touch at smvoice.info.
If Bitcoin were a normal sort of experiment, then the Bitcoin Foundation would be the sort of driving organization behind it. But because of the interesting and decentralized way that the Bitcoin project as a whole and cryptocurrency in general has come into being, actually the Bitcoin Foundation has only the power that they can attract with their policies and with their stances and with their beliefs. Today, I'm joined by a previous guest on Let's Talk Bitcoin. Anthony D'Orio is the executive director of the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada. And, it's very interesting kind of existing in this space where there are no definitive organizations and where kind of if someone has a good idea, you push forward on it. Anthony, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me back, Adam.
Tell me, it's been about, 3 months since we've spoken on the air. Can you bring us up to date on what's going on with the Alliance in Canada?
Sure. We first announced ourselves, or first set up the first press releases trying to gather people from across Canada to get on board with the concept to promote Bitcoin in Canada. We wanted to do our whole structure and organization as a very open model. We wanted to really get participation from Bitcoin enthusiasts across Canada in all parts of our setup and our organizational structure. So we spent a few months putting out press releases, getting feedback, collecting a database of people that would be interested in taking board positions or be involved in the voting process for the board. From there, we had 7 board members elected. The board then took over and the election committee disbanded. We then developed 9 different committees. Each committee is led by a board member. I was elected the executive director. And now we're preparing for our official launch to the public next month, since we've got our membership structure and our new Nation Builder website almost completed and ready to go for mid-November.
You mentioned something there. When you put together the alliance, instead of forming it from the very beginning around a core group that you already know of people who you already knew who were involved, you put out a call for participation. Why was that a direction that you chose to go with your process?
I think from seeing how 2 sides had developed when the Bitcoin Foundation first started up, I think that mass appeal is what needs to be centered upon. And I thought the best way to get many people on board, many ideas, would be to get a large participation in the start of the organization right from the beginning and have participation so that afterwards it can't really be looked back as a way where people say, well, why did they come up with this idea? Or how did they come up with this idea? And we did it through communicating out there with the Bitcoin community in Canada, getting their ideas, getting their thoughts, getting them on board. We think having it in the participation nature is something that is beneficial to do right from the get-go.
So in addition to the national chapter, you and I have been having a conversation about international organizations and international structures because you spent some time traveling.
Sure. I've been to 4 conferences this year. I've been down to San Jose, New York, London, England, and recently the one in Amsterdam. At the last Amsterdam conference, there were 2 meetings which garnered together about, 8 different country leaders with the specific task to look at what the foundation is attempting to expand internationally with their affiliate and chapter program and get a consensus and see where people are standing on the approach. I went into it with my board having discussions with the foundation in setting up an affiliate and chapter program with them. So I'd already received the legal document that the foundation had provided us so that we could discuss it and see if we were going to move forward with it. In the meeting, I was really taken aback by a lot of the hostility towards the foundation. Many people there saw it as an American-centric organization that is now just trying to expand internationally, being led by Americans. I was really taken aback by the hostility. It wasn't something that I had heard previously, or at least to that extent, but it did open my eyes and allowed me to do some further research and really see what people are really thinking internationally about the foundation, and perhaps that there is a divide forming and that maybe another solution to international expansion might be the best approach rather than an affiliate or chapter approach that the foundation is taking right now.
So what was the hostility surrounding? Was there a particular issue that's a problem?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, again, the foundation has been seen from the beginning by a lot of people as a group that announced themselves, that the board of directors came out from an approach that was just this is who we are. And I think that biased the membership right from the beginning. I think it's led to international support perhaps not being so strong. And I think that it's led the membership base to be still much American, many Americans involved. And I think if it does get more international, it's going to take some time to do that. The foundation is looking to expand internationally, maybe to try to garner favor internationally. It might be having the opposite effect, whereby the leaders of these international organizations are just seeing it now as more and more of an American entity trying to spread into their areas, or into their nations. It could be having the opposite effect of what the foundation is trying to do.
So what is a better way to do this? I'm a member of the foundation. I think that it is easy to, as are lots of people too. I think it's very easy to argue that the foundation is trying to fill a gap that it sees in the market. It's trying to bring people together under one sort of brand so that those people can be represented and have their voices heard. And the foundation is ostensibly trying to represent those voices as best they can. I think the problem here is that there are a lot of different voices and not all of them line up, and some of them are frankly adversarial. So no matter what the decision that the foundation makes, it sort of has to impose its will, because otherwise it does nothing.
It's a really tricky situation. It's something I put a lot of thought into to see possible alternatives. I think the foundation has done a lot of great things. I think that the two main concerns people have, how does it become more international? And is it possible to become more international given the initial structure that it started out with? I also think another concern that we're hearing of is the development of the Bitcoin protocol, and that maybe having a centralized factor on that the way it stands right now. I don't want to see the point where other organizations just dismiss the foundation and say, forget them, we're going to go our own way, we're going to start our own thing. I think a bridge needs to be developed. I come up with a few points that I think a solution should come up with. Like, I believe it should involve local and national development. That should be the focus right now. And I believe that the foundation resources should go towards national and local development, however, on a collaboration and independent way, so that they're helping and assisting and in a collaborative method, but they're actually letting these guys stay completely independent, letting them set their own membership structures, not being imposed or having to share membership structures or having to agree to a membership structure that the foundation says this is going to be the membership structure if you'd like to be an affiliate of ours. I think we need a decentralization of the control in as many points as possible. I think we need to efficiently share resource systems. Bottom-up structure should be stressed when feasible, not top-down. I think we need communication with adaptation of best results practices. We need to share things when they're working. We need to share them out there and let people know, listen, I had this model for this meetup idea, or I had this model there. Let's take this idea and run with it, adapt it to your area. But here's the idea, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think we need to stress mass appeal, adoption, and participation. That should be key. We need to get numbers behind us. The Alliance is working on a free membership strategy in order to get people on board with us in Canada here. Then we'll have a paid structure in order to get voting rights or to get other perks and benefits. And I think what we got to do right now is promote long-term international cooperation. But I think that should be down the road, and that the focus now should just be getting national and local organizations developed. And then we all come together and devise a plan to work internationally, not have one specific group going country to country, trying to bring on one group on board. And if they don't like that group, or that group doesn't want a part of it, then they're going to find a secondary group, which may not be the one that is the best in that country to work with.
I think that's a really interesting approach to it. So basically what you're saying is that it's too early to focus on international organizations. And instead, what we should be doing is having individual nations and individual regions and localities, even, it's not necessarily a national thing, building out robust local and national structures so that at some point those can all join together and opt in to some sort of international organization. Is that what you're saying?
That's a concept that I think would work. I think eventually there should be some type of charter, some type of very loose-fitting agreement that is brought together by a steering committee of 4 different areas of the world, like the Americas, Europe, Asia, Pacific, and Africa, once these national organizations are developed. And this charter could perhaps be so loose-fitting that any organization, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency organization, should agree to. We shouldn't try to get one national organization on board with this. We should get multiple national, like there could be 3 or 4. In Canada, we have the Montreal Embassy, which is starting a new organization out there, and they're well-funded. I think that they have a great concept, but it's different than the Alliance. But there's no reason that we can't work together and then all come together on some type of international program as well, rather than just one from each country. I think we need many, many different models, many different structures, see what's working. And it's the goal. It's the role of people like the Alliance and the Foundation to let other nations know their models and let them run with it, let them adopt it. And this is what I think we should just be sending our resources. Contact me if you want to know how we did the alliance. If you like the process, take it, run with it. And that's the best way I think that it should be handled right now. I want the foundation to, I think they're doing an excellent job, but I think they have to listen to other organizations. We have to get a concerted effort together, not just okay, here's the plan for international expansion. This is the way we're doing it. We'll go country to country and work it out, rather than let's sit back, let's have discussions, let's have leader meetings together, and then we'll come up with a plan. But let's, in the meantime, share our resources, share information, share best practices so that we can grow. Because I do believe that's going to be the collaboration effort that we need eventually when other interests try to take hold.
So what comes next? You're about to launch the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada formally. So what's next on the agenda after that?
Next is growing our committees, continue to add the advisors and the volunteer positions to each committee that we have. The next step is planning the conference early next year, the Canadian conference. So that's the next thing that's on my radar that I'll be focusing on. And I'm going to continue this effort here to reach out to leaders across the world that are Bitcoin leaders that would like some assistance in maybe getting a national organization started. I can provide the model that we used. You can take it, do what you wish with it. And I have also models, local buildings, so the meetup groups and things that I've learned from other people that I'd be willing to share with anybody that would like to speak with me.
So now on that note, on the one hand, you're saying that you're wanting to work with leaders, and then on the other hand, you're saying that you want to talk with everybody, or you're willing to speak with everybody. What does it take to become a leader of one of these movements, and what types of people are you seeing filling these roles?
I think a leader first starts off by somebody saying, okay, I'm going to try to collect some research, see what other people are doing, because I want to expand Bitcoin. I want to either start a meetup in my local area here. I don't know how I should do it or the processes here. Maybe I'll go speak with someone that's already done it and has a method. I'm willing to speak with anybody that wants to take and get on the forefront of just saying, here, I want to make a push in my country, or I want to make a push locally where I am. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'd rather see something that seems to be working, that seems to be appealing to a large majority of people. And that's where I'd like to be here, just speaking with people, let them know what I've done. And if you like it, go with it. If you don't like it, or if there's a better way, let's talk about it, and we'll build a better process altogether here. I learned from what the foundation did. If it wasn't for them, maybe I would have done it similar to what they did, but I've learned from what they did from the start. And I think that I've been able to come up with a concept that has a little bit more mass appeal and has a little more international appeal.
So learn from other people's mistakes and successes too, and just start. That a good takeaway?
Exactly.
Anthony, what are the contact methods someone can get in touch with you or reach you through?
Sure. My email address is adiorio@bitcoinalliance.ca, which is ADIIORIO@bitcoinalliance.ca. And my phone number is 416-831-9593.
Anthony, thank you for joining us. We look forward to checking in with you again soon on your progress with the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada and this international organization at some point in the future.
Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks for listening to episode 54 of Let's Talk Bitcoin. Content for today's show is provided by Stephanie Murphy, Jordan Kelly, Charles Hoskinson, Jaden Shelton, and Anthony Diorio. Music was provided by Jared Rubens. Any questions or comments? Email adam@letstalkbitcoin.com. See you next time.
At the moment, we're in the mode that we want to get the tools built to keep this thing open source, help grow Bitcoin, and the investors are basically saying they're in no rush to make a return on this. And we are absolutely planning to explore those avenues, but we really want to have a good product before we start trying to monetize it.
That's Alan Reiner, founder and CEO of the open source Armory wallet. I caught up with him about his ultra-secure but memory-intensive wallet application for episode 55 of Let's Talk Bitcoin. Here's a taste.
I think the most important feature of Armory is the backups. It's kind of difficult to describe, what's really going on under the hood. But the Satoshi client, Bitcoin QT, whatever you want to call it, I wish they'd come up with a better name for that. Satoshi client, their wallet randomly generates addresses. They generate a pool of them, and when you run out of that pool, it makes more, but it's not deterministic, which means that if you were to restore your wallet to a previous version and regenerate those addresses, you'd get different addresses. And that's a serious problem in terms of backups. One of the things that I think is most important for people's security both security from other people and security from themselves is being able to do backups, and people are really bad at persistent backups. So Armory implements a one-time backup system that's as secure as the method that Bitcoin QT uses. And in fact, Bitcoin QT and all the other clients are moving to a similar scheme. Armory has had that for 2 years, where you make your wallet the first time, and then you can print off a sheet of paper, or if you don't have a printer, you can write down the data on the sheet of paper. And that's all you need ever. You can use millions and billions of addresses, send and receive money as much as you want. No matter what happens, that piece of paper will always recover your money.
Why are you able to do this where the Satoshi client is not?
It's not a matter of capability. It's a matter of priorities. It will be a pretty dramatic change for the Satoshi client to implement that, because it involves overhauling their wallet code, which is very, very sensitive code. One of the big things we're working on is we're going to do the hardware wallet integration. We want to be supporting those hardware wallets as soon as they come out.
Tune in for the rest of my interview with Alan Reiner on Friday, the 1st of November with episode 55. As we close out another month of shows, the crew at Let's Talk Bitcoin wishes you a safe and spooky Halloween. Or if you're like me, you might prefer a quiet and uninterrupted Halloween that you don't celebrate. Either way, thanks for listening.